everyone, and welcome back. Today I want to tell you some tips on how to read philosophy. Why am I doing this? You all can read? Yes, I know that. But when you're reading philosophy, something that you need to understand is that it's different from other types of text that you will read. So you can't approach it like you would anything else, because there's a specific format that we're looking for. A philosophical argument is written a certain way. Philosophical arguments consist of specific parts. There's a conclusion, which is the main point of the argument. And that conclusion is supported by reasons that we philosophers call premises. So just keep in mind that when you see the word premise, that's another word for a reason. What we're trying to do with these arguments is we're trying to make up the highest quality arguments that we can so that we can persuade someone of something. Now, whenever you're approaching these philosophical texts, the first thing that we need to do is we need to approach the text with an open mind. That's number one on our board. We all come into this class and to whatever it is that we're reading with prejudice, biases, all of those sorts of things. But what we need to do is we need to do whatever we can to try not to prejudge the text. We want to focus on what's actually written and not what we think about what's written. We need to wait until we've actually read it before we can make those judgments. The second thing we want to do is read actively and critically. We can't skim, we can't quick read, we can't do any of those things that you might be able to do with other forms of reading. And I know this because I used to try to get away with that when I was younger as well. It did not work out, not with philosophy. So we need to focus on what it is that we're reading. The third thing that you need to do is try to identify the parts of the argument by finding the conclusion first. The conclusion is the main point of the argument. That conclusion is supported by one or more premises. A premise is just a reason. It's just the philosophical jargon for a reason. So once you found your conclusion, you want to see what are those statements that answer the question of why. Why should I believe this? What's the justification for that conclusion? Also, those premises should have some sort of evidence to support them. Otherwise, why should you believe the argument? The fourth thing that we want to do is outline, paraphrase, or summarize the argument. Why do we want to do this? Because if you can do this, then it shows that you know the different parts of the argument and you understand how they work together, the relationship between the premises and the conclusion, and you'll be better able to go on to number 5, which is evaluate the argument. When we evaluate the argument, this is where we're trying to figure out if this is a high quality argument or not. We'll get into this more specifically in a later video where we'll talk about fallacies. A fallacy is an error or mistake in reasoning. There are informal fallacies and there are formal fallacies. More on that later. The last thing that we want to do is we want to try to form a judgment about the argument. What do you think about it? Could you come up with a counter argument? Do you agree or disagree? So, this was just a quick video to give y'all these tips on reading philosophy. Going back over them real quick. The first one is approach the text with an open mind. The second one is read actively and critically. The third one is you want to identify the parts of the argument, starting with the conclusion and then the premises. The fourth step is to outline, paraphrase, or summarize the argument. The fifth thing you want to do is evaluate the argument for any errors in reasoning, also known as fallacies. And the last thing you want to do is see if you can form some sort of judgment about the argument. All right, everybody, I hope this helps. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.